Hall of Fame football coach Vince Lombardi once said that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Well, I'm here to tell you that over the next 4.5 years, but specifically and importantly over the next year, you're going to see a window of opportunity open up that has not opened up in the last 80 years. Whether you jump through that window or miss it when it closes and smash into it later on is completely up to you. It's what you do over the next 2 or 3 months. On today's show, I'm going to be showing you what I call a shockingly simple 2021 business plan. It's 7 steps, and I'm going to show you how to start implementing those now. In addition to that, we're going to have some Q&A and some fun right here on EdTalks Live, which is next. Hey, what's up, party people? My name's Ed Rush, 5-time #1 best-selling author, your host for the most positive place on the planet for insanely implementable ideas. We're here right here in December of 2020 at the end of what most people would say is basically the worst year in a really, really, really long time. Now, I'm here to tell you, there's a lot of people, so I've heard people say this is the worst year ever. I've actually heard that quite a bit. I'm sure you have heard people say this is the worst year ever. Those people who say this is the worst year ever, maybe you should have lived through the famine of 1337 in England. Or maybe you should have lived for just a little while during the Black Plague in Europe. Look, I know that 2020 has been a tough year, but in the context of history, the fact that one of the biggest challenges this year, has been like, finding toilet paper at Costco, relatively speaking, not the worst year ever, but still a pretty challenging year. But here's what's going to happen. There have been massive changes in the marketplace that are beginning to settle in. The world totally changed. So if you're the kind of person who wants to go back to normal, I'm sorry to tell you that's not going to happen. But if you're the kind of person that looks into the future and sees opportunity, now is the time. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today, if you were to go forward into 2025 and then look backwards. So I want you to imagine for a moment you're on December 2025, which is kind of a cool year for Christmas, right? December 2025, and you're sitting there having a nice glass of wine. You're there potentially with your family. You've got your Christmas tree up, if that's what you celebrate. And you're looking back on the last 5 years, and you have a big smile on your face because you know that you made some massive changes in 2020 and 2021 that are going to give you a significant advantage in the marketplace in 2025. So jump into chat, by the way. Tell me who you are, where you're from, what you do. I want to say hello to some of our friends, and then I'm going to jump up on the whiteboard. We're going to get cranky today. I've got a lot to share and a little bit of time to do it. And hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A and for some interaction as we go. Let me just say hello. Hello, Sir Windlebugs. Good to see you from Houston, Texas. Also from Texas. What's up, Robert? I was just talking about you yesterday, Robert. I still have right next to my desk a letter that you wrote me. You sent a letter to Ralph Reed and you copied it to me. I still tell people about that, buddy. Diana, good to see you as well. Thank you for your email the other day. Barry, hello, sir. Yes, this is the 2020 version of the Black Plague. I have a thought for you about this whole thing before we get cranking. And everyone else, jump into chat. Tell me what you're up to today. We're going to talk about how you can totally crush 2020. All right, on to the whiteboard. I was telling someone this the other day. This is actually really important for context because I've been talking a lot about our country, the big challenges that we're facing as a country, some of the biggest decisions that we're making as a nation, and frankly, some of the dumbest decisions that we're making as a nation. And if you took 2 circles and you crossed those 2 circles over top of each other, I know they're not perfect circles, and you said on this side, there is a virus that has been crossing the world and is potentially more contagious than a lot of the flu viruses that have happened in the past, and potentially more deadly, especially for people with significant comorbidities, okay? So if you put this into a circle, and then over here, you put into the circle personal freedoms. And actually, I go so far as saying not only personal freedoms, but collective freedoms are important. If you took these two circles and you put them together, I live right about in here, okay? And the reason I say that is because for some reason, probably because we're in the middle of election year, in March of 2020, this virus came across, or it probably was here before. In March of 2020, it hit, and all of a sudden, people started seeing the symptoms of a very unique flu. Most of the people who ended up passing away from this, something like, I mean, the numbers are massively skewed. A massive 99+ % of the people who passed away from this did have some sort of other issue, COPD or asthma or some sort of I don't know, other problem. But when this hit, what happened in our country is it became a massive political issue. And one side wanted to massively lock the country down. The other side said this is really important. And so if you said publicly in the marketplace, like I'm saying right now, hey, this is actually a pretty significant deal. This is a more significant, like I had a friend of mine who just had 2 weeks where he had COVID-19. And he said, man, it was unlike any other flu that I've ever had. He said, I didn't throw up. I just felt really sick. I had definitely had trouble breathing, and it just stuck with me for a really long time. I had similar symptoms, by the way, about a year ago in November of 2019, long before everybody even used the term COVID. I'm positive that I actually had it at the time. But my friend described this, and then at the end of it, he said, it was a really tough 2 weeks, but we should have never shut the country down for this, okay? So if I'm the kind of person that exists in both of these circles. Now, the problem with this is the overreaction to the virus, and I did use that term overreaction on purpose, was sort of the Democratic bent, and the overreaction towards personal collective freedoms was sort of the Republican bent. So if you came out in the marketplace and you said, man, this is a really significant deal, and we do need to be careful. My opinion, by the way, is that things like social distancing and separation were probably a good idea for those at risk. So for example, I have family members who have COPD. That would be a good group of people to wear a mask in public. I also have a 13-year-old who never gets sick, okay? And the chances are that virus has moved through, okay, his body. The idea that he couldn't be playing baseball with his friends out on a baseball field is ridiculous, okay? And we have what the idea of personal and collective freedom. So for example, up until 2010, the government actually never told you who you had to buy things from. It's actually a very un-American thing. Could you imagine, for example, the government saying, hey, you're allowed to go to this restaurant, and you are allowed to go to this restaurant, but you can't go to the other place, okay? Could you imagine the government doing that? Well, in 2012, the government started saying, here are the healthcare companies that you are allowed to choose from, and here are the ones that you're not allowed to choose from. Some of you know that as the Affordable Care Act. Anyway, my point is, you couldn't start in one of these two places without immediately the other side jumping at you, okay? So for example, if I said publicly, which I have, if I say, hey, personal freedoms are important. I have literally had people on social media go, oh, so you want people to die? I mean, think about the logic train that you have to go, so you want people to die. But if I had said, hey, this is legit. Like we need to up our ability for our healthcare workers to be able to combat this. People go, yeah, but personal freedoms are really important because we live in what I call a kindergarten world, okay? And here's what a kindergarten world is, right? So when I was in kindergarten, I watched a movie called Superman, okay? And in the movie Superman, some of you remember the original movie with Christopher Reeve holding his, holding the bridge up, right? So Christopher Reeve's holding the bridge, the train goes across the bridge. In kindergarten, I learned that there was good and evil, okay? And on one side, you've got Superman, and on the other side, you've got Lex Luthor. And Superman was good, and Lex Luthor was evil. Now, when you grow up, like when you move into like first grade and then second grade, when you grow up, you start to understand that not everything in the world operates off of this plane right here, okay? So, are there good people? Yes. Are there evil people? Yes. But you know what? There's ideas that sort of float around in the middle. So for example, there are ideas which are good ideas, But as I tell some of my coaching members, one good idea is one good idea. But 10 good ideas put together sometimes can be one really bad idea. Okay? Because sometimes a business owner tries to implement 10 things, and when you try to implement 10 things, all of a sudden you don't implement any of those because wisdom needs to come into play. And overarching this whole discussion needs to be wisdom. Now, the problem with our country right now is because of the hyper-partisanship of our country. I'm going to talk about this as it relates to business in just a second. Because of the hyper-partisanship of our country, we've not allowed this to be a place where we're allowed to have a discussion. And by the way, this oftentimes is described as the middle, and I know that depicted on this board, this is the middle, but I'm here to tell you that oftentimes the best solutions to a challenge or a problem lie completely outside of the current discussion, okay? So this is where we are. And last week, when we started talking about this topic, last week I said we're in the middle of an 80-year cycle, okay? So if you missed my show last Thursday, it's probably here on YouTube someplace, but I talked about the shocking 80-year cycle that will predict with near certainty what will happen over the next 5 years, okay? So you can go back. The show name is called 2021, the Year of the Expert. And I talked about this 80-year cycle and how we're at the end of the last 80-year cycle and that we're in the beginning of a new 5-year cycle. And if you look at history, there are 80-year turns, and every 80 years, there's 5 years of challenge, difficulty, tumult, unrest that lead to something better. And we're actually at the end of the first of 5 years of unrest that are leading to something better. And I'm getting to the better thing in just a second. Now, what happens during these 5-year windows, and again, I'm speeding this up because most of you saw what I taught last week. At the end of these 5-year windows, the entire world resets. And during those windows, it gives massive opportunities to those people who want to jump through those hoops and take advantage of that, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk quickly about the history of information flow, and then I'm going to walk through 7 steps, 7 things that you can do to create a massive opportunity in your business right now, okay? Now, before I do that, I want to jump in and say hello. If you haven't said hello in chat, tell me who you are, where you're from, what you do. By the way, if you're on YouTube, that's over here on the right-hand side. If you're on Facebook, that's down below. Okay? And I want to welcome everybody who just joined us. And by the way, if you did just join us, my name is Ed Rush. Today we're talking about the shockingly simple 2021 business plan. In a moment, I'm going to give you 7 simple steps that you can take to totally dominate. Hey, Bob, welcome to the show. Good to see you as well. Apex, North Carolina, helping people sell more on their e-commerce websites. I love it, dude. Thank you for jumping in. All right, so I'm going to go back into history real quick. We're going to talk about the history of information. Then I'm going to walk through this simple 7-part business plan, and hopefully I'll be around to take your questions. What's up? Speaking of the Northeast. Hello, Lori Paul. Good to see you as well. Super smart business owner right there, Lori. And she used to run a $1.3 billion company. All right. If you need process help, you reach out to Lori. She's your person. All right. So let's talk about information flow. And I want to lead this into a discussion about you. Okay. Because you are a person who has a message or a product or a service that's going to change the world. You haven't gotten it out there yet. I'm going to show you some keys. And in fact, I'm going to show you where the market's moving. It was Wayne Gretzky who said he didn't skate to where the puck was. He skated to where the puck was going. It was Dan Kennedy who said, you choose what side of the cash register you stand on. I put those 2 quotes together and realized that the cash register, like a puck, is moving, okay? That the puck is moving in the direction, in a certain direction, and your job the cash register is moving. Your job as a business owner is to move to where the cash register is. So if you're an author, a speaker, a consultant, a coach, a thought leader, somebody who really has a desire to help change the world, this is for you, okay? And chat just blew up. I've got some questions that just popped in there. I'm going to get to your questions in just a second. Jordan, Diana, thank you. Hello, Celie, good to see you as well. I'm going to get to all you in just a second. Let's talk about the way that information flows, okay? So let's go into the 60s. In the 1960s and into the 70s, if you were to get your information, by the way, for those of you who follow me for a while, you remember I talked about this back in June when I started talking about the big changes that are coming in the marketplace. And if you go back to June and you watch the shows that I did back in June, Jordan, ask me your specific question. I will get to that today, okay? If you go back to June, I started predicting some of the things that you're already seeing happen, okay? So I'm just telling you that I was right back in June, and I'm telling you with 100% certainty I'm right about what I'm telling you right now. Okay, back in the 70s, if you wanted to get your information, you got it from one person. His name was Walter Cronkite. Americans tuned in to listen to Walter Cronkite tell them how to filter the world. It was Nixon who said, I believe in 72, he said, look, if I've lost Walter Cronkite, I've lost the Vietnam War. And it was when Walter Cronkite started publicly expressing dismay about the war that national sentiment, not just fringe sentiment, started to turn against the war. Now, into the 80s and 90s, this influence actually split into three. So it went to, in the 80s, you would watch your news on one of three places, either ABC, NBC, or CBS, okay? So I remember back in the 80s, sitting at home, having just finished dinner, and my mom would turn on ABC News with Tom Brokaw. Hello, my name is Tom Brokaw, and this is the news. And all of a sudden, for 30 minutes, we as Americans would look at our trusted news source to find out what's true about the world that we live in. Now, into the 90s and into the 2000s, a small little news network called CNN pops onto the scene. This was the first time, you'll remember CNN and then headline news. This was really the first time that Americans had access to 24-hour news. In the 80s, some of you remember we read newspapers, okay? So like I grew up in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia in the morning, the Philadelphia Inquirer came out, and in the afternoon, the Philadelphia Daily News came out. So if you wanted to know what was happening, you watched the morning local news, then you read the Inquirer, then in the afternoon you read the Daily News, and then in the evening you listened to Tom Brokaw. Well, in the 2000s, this little network called CNN started to offer 24-hour news, and it was really propelled and fueled, okay, in the 1990s, right around 1991. You remember in 1991, this is when it really hit the scene, when we went to war in Iraq and people wanted to watch the war on TV all day long. Now, into the 2000s, there was another news network that showed up on the scene, and some of you remember Fox, okay? Fox was initially fueled by, some of you remember, in the late 1990s, mid to late 1990s, there was a president whose name is Bill Clinton, one of the most reacted against presidents of our time. And it was the radio that actually began that. So people started listening to these conservative commentators, people like Rush Limbaugh, and then Fox came out of that. And so what you ended up with was you had CNN that represented the left, and then you had Fox, which at the time, doesn't anymore, by the way, represented the right. Okay, now, here's something fascinating about our country, and I'm going to get to this information thing in just a second, okay? If you took, let me find colors for this. So I'll use blue and orange. Okay, so let's take orange, and let's say orange is the Republican Party. Let's take blue, and let's say blue is the Democratic Party. In the 1990s, and this is, let's say this is very conservative. We're going to get to a business point that's very important in a second. Let's say the right is very conservative and the left is very liberal, okay? On the right-hand side, if this is the Republicans in Congress, what was happening in the 90s is that the most liberal conservative was far more liberal than the most conservative Democrat, okay? The lines would cross. And so there were a lot of, for example, the Democrats had a big contingent called the Dixiecrats, who were the Southern Democrats, who were very conservative. And then the Republicans had people who were very liberal, okay? And the parties really crossed over fairly significantly. I would say that this crossing over was actually fairly healthy for our country because there was a lot of room for compromise right here. Now, because of these two networks, what ended up happening is this bubble moved, and this bubble moved. So here's where we're at right now. Check it out. Ready? We're like this. There's no crossover. The most conservative liberal, like somebody like Joe Manchin, senator from West Virginia, is still more liberal than the most liberal conservative. You see that? Our country went whoosh, like this. So if you're trying to make sense of some of the polarization, you can actually see this began here. Now, here's what happened in 2020. It's fascinating, okay? This is the kind of stuff, like if you know this stuff, if you know this, you can make sense of almost anything, okay? In 2020, actually it started in 2016, but 2016 was the beginning of the end of modern news, okay? 2020 was the middle of the end. And I'm just telling you, the news station, CNN is for sale right now, okay? AT&T has already put them up. CNN is about to lose its CEO. That company is going bankrupt. Fox News in November 3rd of 2020 just completely destroyed its base, okay? They're also starting to go away. And I started predicting this. About 4 years ago, okay? In 2020, well, here's what happened. People started finding out their information from individuals. And I would bet you with 100% certainty that there are several people you follow online, maybe on Instagram or Twitter, it might be on Facebook, it may be on their email list, that will help you filter and understand your information on a specific topic. So for example, there are several people that I follow regarding economics, okay, the understanding of what's happening with money. There are several people that I follow when it comes to filtering and understanding government. I choose to follow people, by the way, on all different sides to be able to understand what's happening. But this is what happened. People started getting their understanding about the world through individuals. So some of you know, some of you have seen JP Sears, Awaken with JP. JP grew this massive following during COVID by going against the grain, going against the discussion in a very humorous way. So people started following individuals. And in this moment, if this is a door that was closed, the door just opened wide for you, okay? With massive opportunity in this doorway for you. Because if you want to now, you know, it used to be that if you wanted to build a business or a following, you had to build a business or a following on the backs of these great media companies. You had to send mail through, send stuff through the mail, or you had to advertise in the newspaper or in magazines. But now you have the ability to go direct to consumer, to get right in front of the ideal person and attract them to you simply using your messaging. Okay, so now this is why I call 2021 the year of the expert. Now is the opportunity if you want to stand for something. Okay, if you're going to be boring. And if you're just going to be like everybody else, now's not a very good time for you, okay? Because people aren't interested in boring. But if now's the time that you're ready to stand up and you're ready to stand for something, you're going to attract a great following, okay? Now, you need to understand what I taught last show, which is in this world, this is an attract and repel world, okay? So to attract the right people, you're going to need to understand that some people you're going to be repelling. And I've already done that on today's show. For example, I spoke about these two circles. And I said, look, the virus is actually legit. Like, this is a big deal, especially for people with comorbidities. But personal and collective freedoms are very important. I think the California governor right now is moving towards the same kind of despotism that we wrote the Declaration of Independence about in 1776, okay? Now, there will be people that will hear me say that and be like, man, he's probably some kind of Republican, which I'm not, by the way, okay? Or there's somebody who says, hears me go, oh, the virus is actually legit, like, and we need to care for people who have comorbidities and issues of fighting off viruses, okay? When I say that, people are like, she's probably some kind of liberal dim. No, I'm not either one of those things, okay? But at the same time, I'm happy to reject 7 to 10% of the people that listen to what I'm saying so that I can attract the other 90%. Okay, so this is where we are right now. Now, as you move into 2020, this is your year to take advantage of the opening marketplace. I'm going to show you 7 different ways that I'm building my business. I'm going to give you some opportunity to jump in and get it going. But before I do that, I just kind of went on like my little rant there. Okay, I've got 7 things we're going to walk through. Before I do that, I do need to jump into chat and say hello and answer some of the questions that you got in here. So what's up, Lori? Good to see you. I said this already. Barry said, today is the 40th anniversary of John Lennon's death. I'd be willing to say that he'd rather be living through this than... It's all a matter of perspective, I always say. It's always a matter of perspective. The example I like to use when it comes to perspective is, I have kids, right? And so one day I was swimming around when my boys were 4, and one of my kids said, Dad, I just peed in the pool. And I'm like, everybody pees in the pool. And then later on, later that week, I was swimming and dude was standing literally on the side of the pool with his pants down, peeing in the pool. I'm like, stop, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm just peeing in the pool. And he thought the other day, he thought that was fine because I actually thought it was fine. And then I actually saw it happening and it wasn't fine. But it's the same thing. It's just a matter of perspective, all right? So with regard to 2020, it's just a matter of perspective. $1.3 billion company, man, I'm telling you. Freedom is cooking meals at home with food you have grown and the best way to gain control of your health. Very good. Jordan, I answered your question. We'll get to that. I'll get to that towards the end. I'll promise you I saw your question and I will get to that. It's good. That's good. That's very good. Thank you for your awesome comments. You are the best. Bulletin evening paper in Philly. I don't even know if the Daily News, they probably still are printing the Daily News. But thank you. Cronkite started the one reporter's opinion which changed the news. Yep. No, it wasn't perfect at all. Thank you, Frank. Maybe our party, we should call it the Patriot Party. What do you think about that? Harisha, good to see you as well. All right, so let's get down to your business. Let's get down to the list, all right? And I'm going to give you 7 things, and then I'm going to stick around to answer some of your questions today, okay? By the way, for those of you who just joined us, my name is Ed Rush. This is the shockingly simple 2021 business plan and how to use it to totally dominate 2021. Some of you know this, but in the beginning of 2021, I'm going to do a one-day training. This one-day training is designed for you to launch yourself into 2021. You are not coming to this if you want to just tiptoe your way through the tulips in 2021. If you have a desire to share your message, to truly influence people for good, if you have the burning, passionate desire to make a change in the world for good, then this training is for you. So on January 6th, put it down in your calendar. On January 6th, we start at 11 o'clock Pacific time. Actually, maybe start at, I think it's 11. We start at 11. We're going to all day, okay? And I'm going to train you on the 7 areas I'm going to be talking about right now. And some of you already know this because you're already registered, okay? I mentioned it in passing last show that I did, and I had 12 people just register out of the blue, and I've got another 20, 30 that are coming today, okay? So this is going to be a fun, fast, interactive Zoom training all day on January 6th. The website, by the way, is edrush.com. And then there's a coupon code. So I used it last week on the show. I'm going to use it this week too. And then who knows when this thing's going to go away. So grab your seat because this is a good deal. I'm going to get you about a third off the price, $100 off. So check it out real quick. I'm going to show my screen. This is the page, by the way. So if you look, there was the date. January 6th, 11 o'clock. Yeah, so it's 11 o'clock a.m. I'm calling it the 2021 Accelerator One-Day Training. If you're already registered, tell me, by the way, because I saw a whole bunch of you register last week. The website's edrush.com/2021. And when you go here, you'll see the modules I'm going to be teaching. And when you go here, just go check this out. Watch this. See the price is $297, which is a really good deal, by the way. It's at $297. If you type in 2021, I know that's really small, and hit apply, it changes it to $197, right? So super awesome deal. And grab your seat now before they all close out. I have about 100 people currently on my Zoom account. I can bump that up to 300. There's going to be no more than that. All right. So, well, I mean, if there's 1,000 people, I guess I could have another Zoom account. I'll figure it out. but enroll before the coupon code goes away, okay? All right, edrush.com/2021. All right, so that's the training for that. Thank you to Lisa. She just put the code right into chat. All right, now here's your 2021 business plan. And I'm going to do this as succinctly as I can, but grab a pen and write these down. And somebody put this into chat too. Someone take notes and put these 7 into chat. And we'll get cranking today. Okay, by the way, if you just joined us, my name's Ed Rush. This is EdTalks Live. We're talking about the shockingly simple 2021 business plan. We'll be going through 7 things that will totally transform your life and business in 2020. No surprise, my step number 1 on my 2021 business plan is mind control. I'm going to get in a moment into marketing, social media, lead generation, how to get eyeballs and how to get in front of your market. But step number 1 for me is always mind control. Here's why. 2020, I think, was the year of mind control. If you allowed the media, if you allowed the world around you, your friends, all of the naysayers and discouragers to control the narrative, you probably would have spent this year gaining 50 pounds and getting drunk every night, okay? And I hope that you didn't. I hope that at some point you took charge of the way that you were thinking. But I will tell you that of all the people I know, I do a pretty good job of managing and controlling my thinking. And this year, man, I gotta tell you, I said this last show, there were some times this year where I woke up in the morning and I was like, man, you ever seen Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh? You know, Eeyore's like, everything's bad, the world is coming to an end. Like, there were mornings where I woke up, some of you remember, like when we started EdTalks Live, every day at 10, I did a show for 90 days, every day, okay? And when we did those, there were some mornings I woke up, oh man, the world is coming to, I felt like, but still, even with this, so 2020 was the year where you had the opportunity to be surrounded by negative things and still maintain your positivity, okay? And if you manage to keep a smile on your face through 2021, and if you manage to keep your health, and if you manage to kind of feel like, you know what? I know it's going to be hard, but I'm going to stay optimistic about this. If you're feeling that right now, well, guess what? You managed mind control during 2021, okay? So in 2021, there are 3 things I'm going to challenge you to do. And again, I'm going to go deeper on this during our one-day training on January 6th. But there are 3 things that I'm challenging you to do in 2021. Now, the first one is I'm just encouraging you to do something this year that excites you, okay? Now, for me, I love learning new things. I love doing and trying new things, okay? So this year, there's a few things that I want to learn how to do. Like, for example, last year I started taking handwriting classes and calligraphy, okay? Last year I worked a little bit on playing my guitar and kind of improving on that. Last year I worked and improved my Spanish. My hablando español, okay? So I've worked on some of these things because your mind needs something refreshing and new to get a hold of, okay? And so, for example, one of the things that I want to do this year, I'll share my screen again. There's this guy that I follow on Instagram. I don't know if you follow this guy, but this guy's called Lord of Maps. See this map? This is a map of Pennsylvania. But check out how he does these maps. See how these are hand-drawn. How he draws like the little mountains and the forest and stuff like that. It's just beautiful little maps with the rivers, the way the rivers run. Look, I'm not a very artistic person. I've never been like really good at art. But when I saw those maps, I'm like, you know what would be cool? It would be cool to learn how to draw one of those. Because I think it'd be fun to like sit at the dinner table, you know, or at the kitchen table and draw, just detail out one of these maps. I always love maps anyway, kind of as a pilot. And so I thought it'd be fun to learn how to do that. Well, that's something that excites you. It gives your mind something to move towards. And what I find when you do something that excites you is it spreads out into the corners and you start getting excitement in some of the areas that you used to not be all that exciting to you. Okay? So the first one on mind control is something that excites you. The second thing on mind control is something that scares you. All right? Now, I'm not talking about like bungee jumping or jumping out of an airplane, okay, or jumping in front of a train. What I mean by something that scares you is something that gets your blood moving just a little bit. Something that's kind of challenging to do. So let me give you a couple of examples. Like right now, I'm starting jiu-jitsu. I had done it about a couple of years ago, just a little bit, not much. And if you've ever done Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it's totally different than most of the martial arts. In a lot of the martial arts, like for example, karate, you show up and you do striking and form before you ever actually get to fighting. But in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, the first day, you are literally rolling that day, like you're actually fighting. And the instructors know how to do it so where like you don't die, you know? But it's a little nervous. Like, so for example, tonight, my classes tonight, my son and I will go. And as I go, I'll be a little apprehensive because you're like, man, I don't know what's going to happen tonight. But then when you leave, you feel sort of victorious because you overcame that fear. There's a lot of different ways to do this, by the way. It doesn't need to be physical. You don't need to like go pick a fight at the Walmart, okay? Like one of the ways that I used to challenge myself is I used to actually ask people in public if I could pray for them. So like, for example, one day we were at my son, or my family and I were at Disneyland. My wife and the other kids had gone into like the coffee store. And my son and I were standing outside, and there was this man who was just standing there, and his hands were trembling. And we were just sitting next to each other, and I said, do you mind if I ask you a question? I said, do you have Parkinson's? And he said, yeah, you know, I just found out actually just a few months ago that I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I said, would you mind if I prayed for you? And he's like, oh man, that would be great. And so we came over, my son and I, and as I started praying for this man, his wife, who was standing next to him, she just started weeping. And she just said, I just want to thank you. No one's done this. And it really means a lot that this was to happen. Okay. But it took a little bit of courage, you know, to like, hey, would you mind if I pray for you? And I've had people who said no to me before on that, which is totally fine, by the way. It's totally fine if they want to do that. But the idea of doing that, like of just kind of doing that it scares you, right? I've had other people who have gone into stores at least once a day or when they could and ask for something for free. So like you go to Starbucks, you say, I'd like a cup of coffee, and you say, would you guys give that to me for free today? And you know what's happened? Sometimes people go, no, sorry. And you're like, that's all right. I just had to ask. But sometimes they're like, yeah, sure, why not? Boo, boo, boo. Next thing you know, you get a free cup of coffee. But you know what? It kind of makes you a little nervous at first when you ask that sort of thing. Okay? So something that excites you, something that scares you. And then the third thing, and I'm going to be talking about this in more detail on January 6th. I have a technique that I'm working on called download instructions. Okay, here's how it goes. You start your day with a little meditation and prayer, but you sit in your chair and you actually literally download your instructions for the day. And I'm going to go into detail on the process for this, but it'll blow your mind at how simple sometimes your day becomes when you're like, oh, well, now I know what I'm supposed to do today. Okay, so your 2021 business plan starts with mind control. Let me jump into chat real quick, and then we'll get back into Robert's in. I know you were already in, dude. Sleep, turn 70, still act like 17, good health, working Zoom calls, life is good. Boom. Yeah, stepping out of our comfort zone. What's up, Billy? And I was just talking about karate, dude. So, I started jiu-jitsu again. We'll say this. When you're 220 pounds, you don't need as good a technique as the 130-pound kid that you're rolling with. There is an advantage to that. So once you kind of move your weight, sometimes it catches up for it. Okay. So your first step in your 2021 business plan is mind control. Second step, marketing. All right. Now I have a weekly flight brief coming out this week that goes into detail on the three things that I'm about to lay out. Okay. But let me just say, your job this year is to do three things really well. Your marketing plan is new lead generation. Second one is to engage the new leads that I'm going to explain this in a second. And the third thing is to get customers from the leads that you generate. Okay, now, lead generation. Lead generation is nothing more than somebody raising their hand and saying, hey, I'm interested in what you have. That could be somebody that comes to your website, puts their email address in. That could be somebody that calls your office and says, hey, I'm interested in talking to you, maybe about doing some consulting. It might be somebody that goes and gets your book and then opts in to your website, or maybe goes to your social media and becomes a social media follower of yours. Okay? That's what lead generation is. And with a business, lead generation is necessary. It's so necessary that if you don't have leads, something really bad happens, which is nothing. Nothing, okay? Now, when it comes to lead generation, I have a little tool that we're going to be using on January 6th, an exercise that I have you go through. My recommendation is always to create one new source where you can generate leads every 2 months. That way you get 6 new lead generation sources in every single year. I'm going to get back to this in just a second when I talk about social media. The second step, and I used to, by the way, when I used to teach this, I used to teach it as lead generation customers. I always skip this middle step right here, but actually this is really important. It's lead generation, then lead engagement. There is something extremely powerful when you keep your leads engaged around your content. Part of that is what I described earlier about attracting and repelling. Part of it is you communicating your message in such a way that people are interested in maybe passing that message on to their friends. For example, I never asked this, but right below here on YouTube, there's a little share button. If you just click that share button, you can click and send this show out to anyone on any of your social media platforms. That's what I mean about engagement. And for real, there's people that have told me, we're on the show, I think this is the 106th. That's amazing. 106th episode of EdTalks Live. And there's been people who said, listen, I watch every single show. This show fundamentally is a lead engagement device. My podcast essentially is a lead engagement device. My weekly flight brief, by the way, if you don't get that, I got to put this up here. If for some reason you don't get my weekly emails, the website is right below, edrush.com. Just go there, put your name and email address in. I promise to take good care of your email, okay? I don't send a lot out. I only send out things that I think are important for you, okay, and helpful for you. And I've got an email coming out this Thursday. It's going to blow your mind. It's the second part of a discussion of 6 things that are going to be huge for you this year. But lead engagement is important. So every once in a while, I'll do like a Zoom training that you've seen me on. That's a lead engagement device, okay? And then the third one right here is how to create new customers. Creating new customers starts with you asking, okay? So it's the first step, whether you sell consulting or coaching or advising or whatever it is, it starts with you asking. Okay, so the second step is marketing. Now, one of the future steps, I'm going to talk about social media. I'm going to get back to lead generation because something significant changed on the social media platforms over the last 2 years that we're going to talk about, and it's going to be a significant game changer for you as well. Okay, by the way, for those of you who just joined us, my name is Ed Rush. This is the shockingly simple 2021 business plan and how to totally dominate next year. And by the way, this week, this is this Thursday, I've got my friend Joel Comm. If you don't know Joel, a very, very, very smart guy, very funny. We're going to talk about everything you ever wanted to know about cryptocurrency. I get questions about Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. We're going to talk about that on Thursday from the guy I think is one of the leading experts in that particular field. And it's going to be a blast. Okay, so make sure that you don't miss this show this Thursday. I don't think I'm going to send an email about it, so make a note in your calendar to join me at 10 o'clock on Thursday. Okay, Number three is time control or time management. Now, in this category, my challenge for you is just one thing. Remember where I said your job is to get new leads, to engage your leads, and to get new customers. My challenge this year is for you to spend 1 hour each day you're at work focused only on those 3 things. My challenge for you is to use the first hour of your day to dial those things in, okay? It's 1 hour. And again, on the 21st, on the 6th of January, I'm going to go deeper on this particular topic, but that's the place that you're going to start. I'm going to move on just for time. Okay, now there's 4 more things we're going to cover. The fourth one, let me run out of room on my board. The fourth one is persuasion or effective communication. I don't have time to go through the details on this, but what I will tell you is that over the last 10 years, but certainly over the last year, the way in which the market responds to communication has significantly changed. Your ability to persuade and communicate has to change with it, okay? So let me give you some examples. There were sales strategies and techniques maybe 5 or 10 years ago that worked very effectively, but don't work at all anymore, even in the slightest. Some of the stuff that you learned, maybe even if you were going to sales stuff back in like the 90s or the 2000s, some of that hardcore NLP closing type stuff, a lot of that stuff went flying out the window. Now, a lot of the techniques that are embedded in that still do work, but let me give you 2 thoughts about what's working now in terms of persuasion and communication, okay? Number 1, humor right now is working especially well. With one caveat, okay? I would suggest that you approach humor without sarcasm. One of the biggest, I think, downers this year has been the increase in the amount of sarcasm in the marketplace. Now, there's nothing wrong with a little small bit of sarcasm here and there. I'm not saying anything against it, but it does, after a while, begin to feel more disingenuous. But there are simple ways to just get someone to laugh. There's 19 actually. And I'm going to be covering some of these when it comes to our training on January 6th. The second one is deep connection, or I know you can't read that, or perceived deep connection. Okay, this year I have done more personal one-on-one communication with prospects, leads, and customers that I have done in any other year. I mean, some of you know, like my coaching members, they get an email address from me, but I'm still only available 5 days a week or certain periods of time, stuff like that. Nowadays, I've had people email me out of the blue. We ended up into an email conversation because I'm willing in this year to go much deeper than I was able to go before. So many of you who are sitting here on chat, we've had a long history. I know you very well. You know me very well. You know where I stand on almost everything. And actually, I probably know where you stand on almost everything. We've had conversations. Some of us have had phone calls. You've been on trainings with me. We've had open Q&A. There's a connection there. And if there's not a connection there with you and your marketplace, at the very least, there should be a perceived connection there with you and your marketplace. This is going to be huge, okay? The idea of following the expert, the sort of I'll use Tony Robbins as an example, not in a bad way. I'm just going to use him as an example. But the idea, when you follow Tony Robbins online, take his courses, you know as well as I do, you're probably not going to meet Tony Robbins, and if you do, it's going to be in passing. And next week, Tony's going to be like, "Oh, Fred," he's probably not going to remember your name, and that's probably true for me too. Okay, even though I've been connected and spoke at events where he spoke at and stuff like that. That's not the kind of connection that I'm talking about. I'm talking about like a hey, I know who that person is. I was on their show kind of connection, okay? That's the kind of connection that's going to work. And my philosophy, it used to be, give me millions. My philosophy now is give me a core of about 1,000 people who are totally bought in. I'll change the world, okay? So I got a couple more. Let me jump into chat real quick and just say hello. Thank you, Bob, for signing up. Yep, it's edrush.com, by the way. You're going to get an email from me, brother, on Wednesday or Thursday. I just wrote this week's. So thank you for that. Thank you, Barry, for writing that. Yeah, it is awesome to connect to the Ed family. We've had a good year too, haven't we? All right. So by the way, if you just joined us, my name is Ed Rush. This is the Shockingly Simple Business Plan for 2021. I'm going to wrap it up here in about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to take some of your questions. Okay. Number 5 is live streaming. Let me put it to you as clearly and succinctly as I can. You need a home studio now. It used to be, check this out. This is my computer on my, this is the camera on my computer. Some of you have seen me do this before. It used to be that you used to be able to do Zoom meetings like this. Can't do that anymore. Those days are gone, okay? The idea of us going back to to the way things were, it's not going to happen. I mean, I just did a whole big live stream last week for a whole bunch of financial advisors. And I told them, the first thing I told them is you got to get a studio. You have to create something that looks the part. For a studio, by the way, there's 4 things. The first one is the set. The second one is the lights. The third one are the cameras, and the fourth one is the audio. Okay, and there's plenty of options. I have a lavalier microphone that I'm wearing now. I've got a SM7 that I use for my interviews. I've gone 3 steps upgraded on the cameras. I've gone 2 steps upgraded on the lights. The set's changed significantly. I'm going to go deep on all this in our training on January 6th that you're signed up for. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I said 7. Hold on a second. I think I missed one. Did I say 7? Oh, I can't remember if I said 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess it's 6. I said 7. I don't know why. I'm sorry if I think I said 7 things. I'm sorry. It's 6. It says 6 on my notes. It says 6 on my other set of notes. And I kept saying 7. Maybe I'll just make one up here at the end. All right, last one are the socials. Quick version on this one. I think there's 2 places to be. LinkedIn and Instagram. And basically that's about it. I don't see a great value on the other platforms right now. You might, and you might have a market that's there. Okay, so I'm not saying that that's not for you, but if you're B2B, go to LinkedIn. If you're B2C, go to Instagram and get good at one of those. Okay, now the second thing that I'll tell you about the socials is this. There is in today's day and age, there's no platform right now that's going to just give you free leads. It used to be that Facebook and Instagram, you could just post stuff there and grow and get free leads, and that's not happening anymore. Okay, so there used to be this like altruism about like, I grew my following organically. And I just got to tell you, if that's something that you're holding on to, like as some sort of ethic that really means something, you throw that out the window as quickly as you can. Okay, because the idea of being able to pay $10 a day just to get in front of your ideal market is a heck of an idea. Now, personally, I despise the idea that I'm going to give money to Facebook, who I disagree with as a company in terms of their personal and frankly their political philosophy. But my idea is like it's a big rescue operation. Okay, because if I can get somebody from Facebook and get them to follow me, well, guess what? They're going to be in better shape following me than they would be following Facebook. Okay, so the 2 points on here, LinkedIn or Instagram, and pay to play. This is the year, by the way, to get smarter at paying to play. It's not that complicated. It is going to take a little bit of learning for you to be able to do it, but just $5 a day on something like Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube will make a huge, huge, huge difference. Okay? I'm sorry, I thought I was 7 points. All right, I'm going to jump back to my main camera, do a quick wrap up, and then I'm going to take a few questions, and then we're going to wrap it up. So, the 6 that I talked about today were mind control, marketing, time control, persuasion and communication, live streaming, and social media. Let me remind you of the training, Accelerator One-Day Training, Wednesday, January 6th. 2021 is the most significant year in business in the last 80 years combined. We're going to talk about these 6 things: mind control, marketing, time mastery, persuasion, communication, live streaming, social media. I may have a guest or 2, but it's mostly me teaching the entire time. Make sure that you go into this order button right here and click on this. Type in promo code 2021. Hit apply. That turns a $297 training into a $197 training. The website for that is edrush.com/2021, and the coupon code is 2021. It's potentially the easiest website on planet Earth to remember. Just the number 2021. Thank you, Barry, for your notes. I love it, dude. Thank you for that very much. Pay to play. Speaking of home studio, why do you recommend 3 studio lights versus 2? 3 lights. I don't know. The one that yeah, this is a good point, by the way. It is a pretty simple decision. Or go spend $5 getting new leads and then monetize them, and then you'll have more money to go buy a Starbucks. All right, so I'm going to talk in detail. Brian, I know you're already registered for this. Thank you. He's right about this. So key light, backlight, fill light, point light. So this needs to be lit back here. This needs to be lit up here. Okay. So we'll go through all that on our. I'm going to go through a whole full studio tour. I'm going to show you the evolution of the studio and how you can get started with $200, or you can get up to $5,000 if you want to. I'm going to give you the whole swath of ideas. All right. So I have one. Jordan had a question, so let me just take this one question, Jordan, and then I got to move my head up though. Your question was long. I like the flight suit though. By the way, Jordan, you must be a C-130 pilot, I'm guessing. Okay, when you're filing your taxes, filing losses, filing purchase taxes versus LLC, also we're in the beginning stages of starting our business or starting our business. Do we need to talk to a small business lawyer? Okay, so first of all, Jordan, I am not an attorney or an accountant, nor do I play one on TV. So please check with your attorney and your accountant on all things related to legal and financial issues. My suggestion to you is very simple. Find a great accountant, okay? There are bookkeepers who keep your books. There is accountants who know how to activate tax strategies that are legal to keep you so that you don't pay more than you should to the government. My simple philosophy is that the government should get paid exactly what they deserve. Now, you figure out what exactly that is, but you do need a good accountant. If you have a company that is a sole proprietorship, turn it into an LLC. That's at least what I've done. It gives you major tax advantages that are fully legal, by the way, but find a very, very good accountant. If you need an introduction to mine, just email me and I'll introduce you to my accountant who I think is the best on planet Earth. That said, if you're starting a business, all of those other considerations are secondary. Here's why. Because you can have a great accountant, awesome bookkeeper, everything is in place and you don't have any money and your business doesn't do anything and it doesn't matter, okay? If, however, I gave you a check for $1 million and said, go figure out how to find a good accountant, you'd go figure out how to find a good accountant. So your job, Jordan, is to create something in the marketplace that's so extraordinary and your marketing is so powerful that you create that $1 million so that you have the funds to be able to go pay for your thing. It comes back to mind control, marketing, time control, persuasion, communication, live streaming, and social media. It comes down to creating a unique selling proposition in the marketplace and then getting it out there so that people can respond to your marketing and message, okay? And so my recommendation is focus on the revenue generating side of your business. The number one thing, Jordan, I get asked by new business owners is how should I set my business up? And I always tell you the opposite. Do the opposite. Put something in the marketplace that's unique enough with great marketing so that people respond to it and then catch up with that other stuff. Because truly the most important thing is people responding to your marketing message. All right? So I think that's it as far as the questions go. So today's show, don't forget, by the way, this Thursday, we're going to talk about cryptocurrency, which I can't wait. I invested in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin some time ago, but I haven't really paid much attention to that. So this is going to be an awesome show to talk about something that's really stayed, okay? And by the way, the coding and the story behind Bitcoin is amazing, okay? And I can't even wait to get to that. It speaks to why, like, we have this cryptocurrency that we don't even know who created it. We can read every line of code, and people use it to trade money and to buy things, and yet we have an election system you can't even read the code. You figure that one out, okay? And for those of you who just joined me and you're like, he's talking about the election. Yes, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, but I do believe that every legal vote should count. And I believe that every illegal vote shouldn't count. So for example, if somebody voted twice, the second one should get taken away, because if they voted twice, what that did to your vote, which was a legal vote, was to disenfranchise you when they voted twice. Okay? So if you're the kind of person that's not for that because your political party will be hurt if every vote is counted legally, you need to rethink your priorities for the next 40 years, not for the next 4 years, okay? Because if the election system falls apart in the country falls apart. That's the way it works. Third world countries have issues with elections, not first world countries. And there's no reason why we can't have a system where we can just all read the computer code that it's built on and have full transparency. We're like the smartest technological system in the world. All right, those of you know I'm trying to start a third party so that we can change the world. And part of that has to do with getting the vote right. All right, that's it for today. Go below edrush.com 2021. Use coupon code 2021. I'll see you on Thursday when we talk about Bitcoin. In the meantime, don't forget, your job is to go take your message and share it with the world so that you can change the world, make the world a better place. I'll talk to you on Thursday. EdTalks Live is out.